Yeah, what's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Prison Break Raw. I'm your host, the one and only Big JD. A warning to the faint at heart, one who may be in doubt about their spiritual or religious beliefs, one who may be confused or in fear of things of the spiritual nature. This may not be the video for you, and I would understand if you turned it off. Didn't even bother to leave a comment, try to rebut me, or anything like that. If you're not going to understand what I'm telling you, this is probably not the video for you. However, if you are firmly grounded in your spiritual or religious beliefs, and you're secure with yours, then you have nothing to fear. Because my purpose is not to convert anybody. Anybody that is a seeker on the esoteric path must seek it with their own desire. There is no converting because this ain't religion we're talking about here. We're talking about the study of life itself. The observance of life. The mechanics of it, how it works. The energy that's all around you. Whether it be magnetism, vibration, whatnot. These energies is what the esotericist or the occultist or somebody in the Kabbalah or the Merkava, ceremonial magic or anything like that works with. The study of religious etymology or religious anthropology or all these things are basically to look for correlations, to try to find a root to the whole thing. Somebody that submits to whatever religion they're involved in, organized religion, has basically limited themselves to that. The esotericist does not. The esotericist can go in any hall of learning and pick up gems of truth and knowledge from anywhere. An esotericist or somebody that understands the occult must always keep one thing in mind. Do not judge any other for their practice. Do not seek to limit your understanding of them because they don't understand you. It's an understanding that the garden of God or the Creator or the Ein Sof or whatever you may call him or her has many flowers in the garden. With the knowledge of that, anybody that has a contrary religious practice or belief is no threat to me at all. It doesn't matter what they believe. But there is a catch to all of that. The catch is anybody that's on the esoteric path, the occult, anything like that, always believes that you shall do no harm to no one else that doesn't willingly want to accept the harm. It's pretty ambiguous if you think about it, but it makes a lot of sense to me because I've been studying that for so long. What that means to me is there is no sacrificing of children because what child would want to sacrifice their life? There's no drinking of blood. There's no molesting kids, raping people, harming people. A lot of people that are on this path have the same mindset. Do no harm to anyone unless they do harm to you. And then it's basically just a response. There is no really turning the other cheek. If you have cancer in your body, you cut it out. If your house is on fire, you put it out with water. You don't let it burn down. A lot of people have attempted to assume they know what I believe or where I stand. Up till recently, I've been called a Satanist or a Luciferian. It's pretty funny because basically you're limiting me to one idea. And I don't limit myself to any of those ideas. But let's talk about all that. Let's start out with that right there. Satanism, Luciferianism, what is it? What is it all about? Is it the practice that Hollywood and the celebrity elite power structure and all them are using? This satanic force? Well, in order to understand all of that, you have to understand what is Satanism. Depending on who you ask, you'll get a different answer. But Satanism never started out as being a religious practice until Anton LaVey in the 1960s created the Church of Satan. Before that, there was no satanic church, temple, anything like that. Lately, they have another one called the Satanic Temple. They have other ones called the Temple of Set, whatnot, this and that. And before Anton LaVey, there was Aleister Crowley with his Thelemic belief. But Thelema has nothing to do with Satanism whatsoever. It's completely Egyptian in practice. If anybody has any kind of relation to that, would probably be the Temple of Set, but not the Church of Satan. So what is the Church of Satan, Satanism, as it has become known in the modern era? And most people didn't even get into all these conspiracies regarding this until Anton LaVey, because there were so many people in Hollywood that was gravitating towards him. But what is it, really? It's a complete confusion and misunderstanding of one book that was in the Bible, the only time that name was ever used. And it wasn't even Satan, it was Ha-Shatan. So Ha is like the. Shaitan is adversary. So Ha-Shatan, or Satan, represents an adversarial force that is totally opposite to what the Abrahamic religion would be. The Torah, spiritual matters. Living every day of your life in the hopes of receiving a wonderful reward in the afterlife. What Anton LaVey did with all of that is he flipped the coin. Where you have people that live their lives in the pursuit of achieving some great grand reward when they die, Satanism under Anton LaVey was living in the here and now. It's like they say in the 9 satanic principles or whatever they are, is that you live in the here and now and you honor the flesh. You don't look for no spiritual pipe dream, because nobody really knows what's going to happen when you die. You may have faith and think that you know what's going to happen, but nobody's ever come back to say what's really happened with any hard evidence. Outside of people that have had near-deaths and experiences and claim to see tunnels of light and all these other things like that, you have to remember most of these people that had these experiences were in hospitals where there's a big light over their head. That's the light they could have seen. Because I had a near-death experience myself, and I was in a dark ambulance, and that's pretty much all I remember seeing is darkness. I remember feeling comfortable. I remember feeling a sense of acceptance and a peace with what it was, but it was gone as quick as it came. So this modern-day Satanism is not what you think. It's not about conjuring up demons and doing all these things, but we'll get into that. But this modern-day Satanism is all about honoring the flesh and indulging without experiencing compulsion, but indulging in all things that are the pleasures of this physical life. It's more of an atheistic practice than anything else, because Satanists don't really worship a devil or Satan or anything like that. A lot of their ceremonies are just more for show than anything else, but they're not really conjuring up anything. I've seen some of them in videos. I've read some of their manuscripts, and it's not anything that I've seen to be connected to the old school world of the occult or the mysteries or esoteric knowledge. The Kabbalah, the Merkava, It has little bits and pieces that they've taken out of certain grimoires and stuff like that. Or maybe the Goetia, but that's about it. All the sigilliums or the sigillums that they got were basically from something that wasn't even satanic. If you think about the five-pointed star, it's actually the symbol of Solomon. It's the symbol of the man. The top part of the star is the spirit, fire, water, earth, and air. All the elements that make the man. When you invert that, it basically means all the makings of the man in the flesh. Upright, it's all the makings of the man in the spirit. The same thing with the six-pointed star or the hexagram or the Star of David as it's commonly referred to is a representation of like the Trinity. The three components, the three primordial elements of the physical man and the three primordial elements of the spiritual man, as above, so below. These symbols have nothing to do with some dude dancing around with a pitchfork in a burning pit. As a matter of fact, that whole concept of hell was something that was created much later, well after the time of Jesus, well after the crucifixion and the resurrection and all of that stuff. If you want to understand where the idea of hell and the lake of fire and Hades and all that stuff comes from, all you got to do is look towards Greek mythology, and you'll find all that stuff in there. So the esotericist or somebody that practices the occult don't believe it logical to believe in some kind of a heaven or a hell in the human form. Things flying around, angels flapping their wings around, demons jumping around down below, any of that stuff like that. These are all like human concepts, man-made images and optics in order to try to understand good and evil and what happens after death. So if Satanism is all about the flesh, then you could say that almost anything on this earth is satanic. As a matter of fact, what you probably don't realize is that you and everyone else around you practices some form of Satanism every single day. Remember, your body is a temple. When you drink, you smoke, you use drugs, you mark it up with tattoos and piercings and all these things like that, you harm the body in that way. You fight. You eat until you're full, gluttony, greed, pride. All those things are satanic if you really think about it, in the sense that they are adversarial to the spiritual good that means to preserve your body as a temple and do it no harm. Abstain from several different things. Strive towards perfecting your spirit and all those things. Everything else is satanic. How many of you honestly knew that you're probably practicing some form of Satanism every single day? Just look at some of the music that's out there. Whether it be rising up in protest against a government, or it's talking about shooting or selling drugs or pimping hoes and slamming Cadillac doors and doing all that stuff, it's all satanic. When you talk about polluting the planet with like gas engines, oil, all these things, plastics in the ocean, that's basically what you're doing to your body. So the same things that are being done to the earth, if you're doing it to your body, it's satanic. It may not be the brand of Satanism according to the Church of Satan and Anton LaVey, but it's definitely an adversarial practice. So these are the things that I had to come to understand in my pursuit. The deeper I delved into it all, I became fascinated with studying the origin of all these different organized religions. I spoke to many rabbis, imams, all over the place. I've read the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita. I've talked to, countless gurus in the Eastern Vedic traditions, Tantric yoga, Tantric Buddhism, all that stuff. Jainism, Zoroastrianism. I've talked to so many different people and I've studied so much of that stuff. But the thing with the Bible that always fascinated me was that first chapter. In verse 26, let us. So Elohim, like the rabbi told me, the unspeakable name of God. And they don't even spell God G-O-D. It's G''D. They won't even say it. And they'll call him Hashem. So I always found it interesting that the audacity of some people that claim to be Christians, how they would come up with these names like Jehovah or Yahweh. Yahweh turning a name into the 4 letters that represent Hashem. Yod-He Vah-He. Turning that into a name you're not supposed to create. It's hella disrespectful in the eyes of like the Hasidic rabbis and stuff like that I've talked to. And I've never understood why some people in the Christian faith do that. Say Jehovah or Yahweh when it's so offensive to the forefathers of that whole religion. So a lot of these things that go on and a lot of the actions and the characteristics and the judgments, the damning people and all that goes on in these organized religions, it's my way or the highway. The only way you can get through God is through my belief. On the other side, in another religion, you have to martyr yourself in some kind of holy war to remove the infidels and stuff. Like, I just started to get deeper into it and said, none of that's for me. But what I did find is that there are kernels of truth in all of those things. Because hidden between the surface of all those metaphorical stories, the ones that many people believe are real, I mean, people honestly believe that those stories were actual history, but there's no historical records to prove any of that to be true. They've always been campfire folklores and allegories and stories that an elder would tell the young. When they turned it into the written word, it became the living Torah, meaning that it's always evolving, it's always changing, and always adapting to any situation. The story may never change, but something different will come out of it every time you read it in Hebrew. The deeper I got, the more closer I started to come to the Kabbalah and the mystery of the Merkava. And I learned about Ein Sof. Ein Sof is limitless light, without beginning, without end, always was, always has been, always will be. From a single source, everything was created. You could basically sum it up by saying, without beginning, thought gave birth to matter. So it was a thought, an energy that manifested itself into a physical form, and the universe was created. In sacred geometry, it's broken down as 1 + 1 = 2, 1 + 2 = 3, 3 + 2 = 5, so on and so forth until you find the golden mean. Sacred geometry, basically where one point makes another to another to another, and it keeps going on and on forever. Even the human body is completely broken down perfectly as far in mathematics and science. So the further I got into it, I learned that everything was just energy. That this illusion that's manufactured before our eyes is nothing but vibration. That is the thought. The thought creates the vibration. The magnetism and all the elements create it into a form, like a prism that shoots out many colors. So I don't have a religious belief. I can walk into any hall of learning, any temple, any church, any mosque, anywhere at all, and be completely comfortable in my skin. Because that's what the esotericist does. We study all the secret knowledge of it all. So when somebody comes at me and tells me that they're a Satanist, yeah, and? As long as you're doing unto others as you would want them to do unto you, so basically you're not going to kill somebody, then no harm, no foul in my eyes. Getting into Luciferianism, that's even more of a misunderstanding. Whole lot of ill-informed people that have no idea what that is. When one says they're a Luciferian, all they're basically saying is they're illuminating their path so that they could see where they're going. The actual figure of Lucifer wasn't even really a principal god in the Roman world of where his namesake comes from. He was like a brother of Diana and stuff. He was Venus. He was the brightest star in the morning star. But of course, they put a lot of allegories and mysteries and myths and folk tales behind him. But one guy that was in the church, St. Jerome, didn't like it. Because anything that would illuminate the path would basically steer people away from the ignorance that the Unitarian Church was trying to keep everybody in at the time. They wanted to keep everybody controlled. But old St. Jerome, man, he was a real piece of work. This dude had such a wide sexual appetite, he cut his own testicles off. There was another early church father that sent a letter to another bishop somewhere else and said, I don't even know why God made women after all. If it was just for good company and companionship that Adam wanted, he should have put two men together in the garden as friends. Yeah, the whole misogynistic, anti-feminine never really interests me at all. Because in this pursuit, again, you learn how to work with both the feminine and the masculine energies. Commonly referred to as wisdom and understanding. Mildness and severity that balances or severity and mercy that balances in between mildness. All these things are symbols, of course. But yeah, how does that really make a lot of you feel? Knowing that you practice Satanism at least once a day with whatever it is that you do. Now you may be telling me, well, I don't worship Satan. I'm not a Satanist. You don't have to put on a black robe, burn some black candles, sacrifice a baby or a small lamb to be practicing Satanism. You just have to be practicing everything contrary to what spiritual compass would give you. Abstaining, not polluting your body with anything because it's a temple. It was a gift that was given to you. So that's why I've learned that a lot of these things, and I tried to subscribe to different religious diets, holy days, all these things like that, and I came to find out that none of that really matters. The only thing that really matters is your intention. What do you intend to do? Like I said, you could tell me that you're a good, pious Christian, but if I ask you, okay, well, if I don't believe in Jesus, what happens to me? Well, you're going to hell. Really? So you're damning me to some fiery hell because I don't believe what you want me to believe? Remember what it says, judge not, for these shall be judged the same. And treat others as you would want them to treat you. That's the whole sum total of the law. But if you're to listen to Aleister Crowley, he would tell you that do as thy will is the sum of the law, of which is also true. You can do whatever you want. Just understand that there is always consequences attached to it. So the main gist of all this is this. There's really no such thing as a devil. There's no such thing as a lake of fire, because it just doesn't make sense scientifically. And I could basically merge science and religion together, because the only thing that religion is it comes from the word regulus, which means to do something regularly. That's all religion is. Religion is just doing something repetitiously, repeatedly. So when people ask me, do you believe in Jesus? Do you believe Jesus really existed? I don't know for sure or not. I do know this, that there was a man who was in that land at the time. My interpretation and my understanding of him is much different than how religion sees him. Because it goes against everything that I've been taught to believe, to limit God to one flesh being. It doesn't make any sense. Because God is omnipotent, God is everywhere. God is in Sof. The name that we do not speak, Hashem. You could call him the All-Father, Odin. You can call him Brahma. You can call him Osiris. Whoever you want. The only thing that I don't recommend anybody do is use the names Yahweh or Jehovah. Because those names have a lot of bad juju behind them. People didn't know what they were mixing together when they were mixing those. It's like throwing a match into a tank of gasoline. It's going to explode. So when people use those names, I steer clear of them. Not only is it the audacity of them to mock a very old tradition of not speaking that name, but it limits any form of a god to that name. So basically, in sum, your actions, your deeds, your thoughts, the way you treat others, the way you carry yourself is all that matters. If there was really such a thing as karma, and there was really such a thing as getting retribution from the Lord, like if God was really going to take something out on evil people, how is it that so many of these evil, weird, twisted bastards that are in Hollywood and whatnot just keep trucking along, and nothing ever happens to them? And so many people before them. Think of Stalin. He killed millions of people and he died an old man. Look at Fidel Castro, same thing. Many, many, many others. Where's this karma at? Your karma is basically your understanding of your place in this world. Good things come and good things go. Bad things come and bad things go. You may win sometimes, but you're going to lose sometimes as well. When you start to understand the secret of life is that everything is drawn to you through magnetism, and it is the vibration you put out there that draws it in. You could do it through ritual. If you know how to combine certain mantras and whatnot, you can actually draw things to you. Like I said, the question of is there really a Jesus or not, I think that after so many hundreds of years of everybody praying to a Jesus, they've probably manifested a Christ-like energy by now. It's just like sitting in the mirror and saying Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, or Candyman. You're eventually going to see something because you're drawing that to you. It's what it all is. It's all energy and vibration, intention. Indulging in what the world has to offer, but understanding that you have limits. Everything is a limit. Not all things you put in the body are good for you. But understand that this earth operates on many different energy level principles that has nothing to do with any books, prophets, or anything like that. You're basically your own prophet. You are mapping out the world according to your optics. You are in the created, you are creating, and you are the creator. What you choose to do with it is entirely up to you. But don't think you're going to get thrown into this burning lake of fire. But just because it doesn't exist doesn't mean that you need to go out and start killing people and hurting people. You have to understand that there's consequences for every action. And in a world that was ran by more logically thinking esotericists, people that harm children and rape women and do that kind of stuff would be cast out and destroyed. It's harsh, but it's the reality of this world. This world is what it is. It's controlled by dark and light, and sometimes the two go hand in hand. Hand in hand. You already know what it is, and you heard it right here. Prison Break Raw, uncut, uncensored, no holds barred, not sugarcoat, not politically correct, all up in your face, slapping you with that dick of reality, and I'm out.